guys? This is the Hard Media Podcast, powered by Hard Media Group and Hard Service Solutions. So let's dive in. So there's a lot of businesses that we are affiliated with. There are a lot of companies and business owners that we know, right, within our network. And a lot of them are complaining about the same thing. What they're saying is, hey, my operations are sound. My company is prepared for more clients, more prospect, more business. We truly have a foundation established where we can take on more work, but we are struggling to fill the pipeline. We are struggling to get leads. We are struggling to get in front of more prospects. So being that you have such a heavy sales and marketing background, what do you think is really happening? How could they kind of fix this issue that so many small businesses are having right now?
Well, let's start with the why. So why capacity exists in a lot of small businesses right now, in my opinion, is that we went through COVID. During COVID, you saw businesses invest in software. They got more efficient. They needed less humans. But post-COVID, everyone came back. The workforce started flushing out. You still had these new systems, these new integrations in place that made things more efficient. So now all these companies are still profitable. We're seeing, good years from a lot of these small businesses, but they want to take on more customers. They want to take on more business because they know they have the capacity. The other issue that we're running into here is that, leads are coming from so many different sources right now. And a lot of these small businesses don't know where to invest to get the best lead flow. The service industry, we work there a lot, and we're seeing this holistic approach become relevant again, right? I would say 10 years ago, this holistic approach of like trying to encompass all of digital and all of traditional marketing was important. Then we got away from that because we saw the lucrativeness of Google ads, we saw the lucrativeness of LSA, and the early days of Facebook advertising were crazy, right? These guys are driving leads at $6-7 a lead at times. Right now, we're seeing that in the 60s, 70s for the most part now, and we're seeing an adjustment, and we're seeing the trackability that we can now integrate all these things and see what the actual cost per lead, cost per appointment set, and cost per acquisition for these small businesses it is, and we can see it on a holistic approach, so we can track all these numbers from all these different places for the first time. The biggest issue with marketing throughout the years is, how can you show me a direct ROI from your efforts? Well, we really can, and we can do it from almost every aspect, even for like mailers at this point, right? We just heard that one of our clients is now using a mailer with a trackability that's unbelievable because it's integrated with the QR codes and some of the system integrations they're using. It's unlike anything else we've ever seen. So they're using that URL via the QR code and tracking the mailer. So the leads are there, but where they're coming from and then fully investing into either one avenue or all these avenues is a big commitment. And you, as a small business, have to worry that if you make too large of a commitment with no ROI on these leads, that you've now put yourself in a position that you're very vulnerable.
So let me ask you this. Is it money? Is it, and I guess what I'm asking is it too expensive for companies, right? They're saying, hey man, I got this person, I got that person, I got my systems built, we're ready to rock. Where are the prospects? Does it at some point come down to money that they are unwilling to invest because they may be lacking it?
Yeah, cash flow is an issue. We know that in this digital front that you got to pay to play. There's not, yes, organic's important. Yes, you'll drive leads off organic. Yes, brand will get you leads, but you're talking about trying to build a championship off of, and then in the meantime, we need to win game one. We need to win our first 3 weeks of playing. We can't just look towards the championship.
Right.
So I think that's the problem. Is like, your brand and those organic leads are what will lead you to a championship. But in the meantime, putting money in and paying to play is going to be an issue. And I think the hesitancy of some small businesses that have been burned, especially the ones that tried to handle it internally without using an agency or without bringing an expert in, but tried to, champion someone at their company to, run Google Leads or build their Facebook is another problem. So you've seen these people get burned, but at the end of the day, it really just comes down to what are you willing to risk? And when you're chasing leads, it's very much like the stock market. There's going to be times when leads are going to be expensive. Mm-hmm. There's going to be times when leads are going to be cheap. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have your hat in the ring at all times, someone else is going to benefit when you're not.
You're not going to prosper.
Right.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the human factor, right? So you're talking now about some of the digital tactics that you can use, right? Whether it be social media, organic, whether it be social media ads, the Google side, the LSA side. When you think about sales from a human perspective, right? Hiring sales reps, hiring a business development person or business development persons, are we going down in that area, right? Are we seeing sales people not be as effective as they once were, or is it just we're just unwilling to invest in them?
Prospecting's changed. I mean, marketing's handling a large deal of prospecting on the sales side at this point, which is fairly new. Yeah. And I think you're having extremely educated customers, and they're going to get more and more educated over time to a point where I'm sure that will level off. But as of right now, the availability of information via social media, YouTube, and Google is unbelievable. So you have an educated customer, prospect. And so they know what they're looking for. And so at this point, your goal is to close. And if you don't have the right service offering or the right tool in the bag, they're already moving on. So realistically, you don't have prospecting the way you may have had it 10 years ago.
So these guys, you really have to have, like when you talk about having the tools in your bag, if the customer's more educated and they know what they're looking for, they know what they want, you're really just looking to have a motivated buyer, and you're now looking to close that buyer. Do we need to, as small businesses, do we need to really hone in on understanding what this end user really wants and then create that package and be able to communicate that package easily?
100%. Like understanding what your audience looks like at a level that is unmatched. I mean, we have the ability to do this. We can target with demographics to an extent still, but that has been restricted. So what we need to do is we're building customer profiles, right? We're building customer profiles and then adhering our services to the profile that we need, and that's across any industry. In marketing, it's a little easier, right? Because we already have the tools there to figure out who our potential customers are and what they look like and how we should reach them a little more than your average business. But a lot of marketing companies now can start to build these profiles out and help you on that side of things. It's almost like micro marketing research, right? It's on a small level. You have a research factor that's going into this to build these profiles. And then once you have those profiles, you may be service offerings that are going to not work. They're going to cost you money. You can start to eliminate some of those and be a little bit more effective.
Last question. Budget is tight, but the company's ready for more. They have the capacity, but budget is tight, right? Maybe they've hired enough people, and maybe that's where all the money's going. So now they're saying, hey, man, we got this infrastructure here, but now I need more clients, but budget is tight. So budget's tight, and they still need to grow their business. They still need to get sales. What would you suggest that they do?
Number one, do you qualify for local service ads? Do you qualify for LSA? If so, that, right? But not everyone does. You have to be a service company. You have to fit the niche that is qualified by Google. And then after that, it really depends on what you are selling in that capacity, right? Are you selling something flashy, sexy, something that can be highlighted on social media? For sure, then put that money into social media. Are you selling something a little more boring, something a little more search driven, something a little more research driven? Then you need to put that budget into Google. I mean, then the last option here is a more traditional route. We are seeing some love come back to broadcasting like this because of the rate, podcasting has taken off. over the last few years, we're starting to see media buys on the podcast and the iHeartRadio style media buys, flourish. So you have 3 different places to play, but it all depends on what you're offering service or product wise.
So it sounds like, for one, you got to know yourself, know your customer, right? Make sure that the tools in your tool shed directly coincide together, right? There's a good mesh there. And then 2, you have to jump in the game in some capacity. You can't just sit stagnant and say, man, my operations are so sound, they're so perfect. Let's just wait for clients to come in. Let's just wait for prospects to come in. You actually have to jump in the game to some degree.
100%. The more proactive and less reactive you can be in this environment, the better.
And I think that's a struggle for a lot of small businesses because it's uncharted territory. Maybe you've built your business up and it's been organic. You've had good referral systems and it's working, but now things have halted and you got to pay overhead. You got to, grow your business to make it make sense to really stay profitable. So I think a lot of people are in this kind of holding pattern of, well, I've never been here before. I don't really know what to do, right? And I think it's just very confusing right now for a lot of businesses, especially if we are in a recession or if this would be a down year, right? I think that brings more pressure for you to get something done, for you to jump in the game and make something happen, because a lot of that organic love, a lot of that referral love might not come this year as much as it did previous years.
100%. We're seeing that, like, from multiple businesses we talk to. We're not seeing a lot of middle ground. The middle ground you'd normally try to play in between aggressiveness and safety. As a business, it just seems like everyone we're talking to is either going into this thing hyper aggressive, trying to take market share while people are slowing down, or they feel like they have an established foothold and they're just slowing down and completely waiting. There's not a lot of in between right now.
The latter might be a little dangerous. Let's go to the second topic, man.
Yeah, so this is something we struggled with over time, right? As scaling our business. I think, we nailed it on try 3.
Yeah.
So what is the downside of scaling too fast?
So the way I look at it is, I'm going to say it like this. You want to scale for sure, right? And it just depends. Some people are okay with more of a small kind of mom and pop type of setup. I think you and I got to a place where we were willing to make less money individually to get time back, right? Time became more important than the actual finances. So we were wanting to scale. And then being that, essentially we are kind of a technology type of company, or we are heavily using tech, it allowed us to scale. It allowed us to set things up. It allowed us to put people in certain places and use technologies to kind of leverage what they don't have, what we don't have, if you will. And everything was fluid. And since we've been in the business, everybody, business coaches, everything that we're reading, they're all screaming to us, hey, man, you want to scale, you want to scale, you want to scale. So like you said, we tried 3 different times. From 2018, I'd say 2022 was the first year that we actually scaled. Now, the danger with that is you can kind of get rocked to sleep a little bit, right? Where the business is running, it's operating, you don't have to touch everything. So maybe you don't keep your finger to the pulse like you once did. Maybe you're not as involved and aggressive in sales as you once were because things are just running. Things are just operating, right? We have relationships with people. We have, people that can give us, good referral systems and things like that. So scaling so fast kind of makes you comfortable. And that's the dangerous part about business, because it's hard not to. You start to win, you start to see success. Why not let your hair down a little bit? Why not, micro as much as you once were? Because no one wants to do that. It's kind of the opposite of scale, right? If you're micromanaging. But I think just personally, between, my 2 firms, I did see where, hey, we got scaled quick. Things are running without me, to where I feel like, not that I'm obsolete, but I feel like I can back up and maybe think about other strategies. And I think that was the danger of scaling so fast from my perspective. And I don't know how you feel about it. You were right there the whole time. What did you see?
No, on my side, I don't handle a lot of the operations. So for me, it wasn't necessarily the operations with that, which becomes so hairy during scale more than anything else, right? Is making sure those things are in place. But on a content side of figuring out ways to create quality content and do it quickly and doing it at scale. We've always wanted to keep our team remotely small and make sure that we're delivering the way we want to deliver. And so there were definitely places to improve, and we didn't feel those until we really reached out to try to scale this thing. And so, there were things we could put in place. There were systems, there were new onboardings, there were software elements that we put in place. So on my side of things, we failed to recognize those when we were trying to scale in the beginning. So as we grew, and started to scale, our software needs, our integration needs became so high that we didn't even recognize that we were falling behind on a couple of these things prior to scale.
Yeah, for sure. And you got to think about it like this too. If you're scaled or you're scaling, you're spending lots of money, right? So if you're spending lots of money, you're taking away from profits to a degree, right? So now you've got this greatly scaled operation, overhead, right? Costs, and some of that may take away from your profits a little bit, which is okay because you're scaling. There's a plan for this. But I think another thing that could be dangerous about scaling is that you can get pretty comfortable with how refined the operation is, how fluid it's running, and it's beautiful, and it's just like, man, this is awesome. But at the same time that this is happening, there should be a severe sense of urgency in you to say, hey, now we need to move more units. Now we need to bring in more prospects. Because while this is going on, if you're comfortable, if you're refined, and if your business is flowing the way that a good scaled business is, you're spending. You have to be, to a degree, right? So now that you have got this refinement, you've got this flow, and everything is awesome, you need to be like a madman trying to now bring in more prospects. You need to be like a madman trying to move more units because you've got this greatly scaled operation. And it didn't happen like that by magic. It happened like that because you were spending money in the right places.
100%. I think taking that step further is being prepared financially with an institute to be able to have leverage, to have a credit line, to have a loan, to have something you can lean on. Because there's going to be times when cash flow is going to get a little hairy because you've made large investments and it's going to flush out and you can see it, and you forecast it, and you work through those things through with your accountant or your controller, and you see that at the end of the day that, hey, man, this flushes out in 90 days. But these 90 days are going to be tight.
90 days are going to be tight.
So it's a whole lot nicer to have a lending partner that can fill that void.
You have to. And this is really, you're talking about, we have a product-based business where we're, primarily moving units to make money, revenues based on the units moved. You have a service-based business, revenues based on the amount of prospects you can get to buy your services. So in both of those situations, we've scaled, right? People, software, equipment, et cetera, anything and everything to make the business more refined. You're spending lots of money. You need bank leverage, right? Or some type of leverage, some cash reserve, some access to a credit line, something to help you, to help ease the pain of what's happening right now. Because scaling is painful.
It's not great.
It's awesome, but it's painful. Like there's an exchange that's happening. You're earning this time. You're earning this fluidity in your business. So if you don't have maybe some type of financial backing to kind of support this growth, we experienced that too because we were making the right decisions. It's easy to, make some of those decisions, invest certain money in those areas, create a flow in your company. But at the same time, all of this is happening. You're not so much thinking about, okay, well, hey, we need to be a little bit ahead of it. So where are the credit lines to support this move? Not saying that we're going to tap the credit lines, but they need to be there just in case things get a little hairy, just in case A&Rs are just slow, just in case we're in a slow season on the retail side. We need that cushion. We don't want to use it, but at the same time, it needs to be there. And then again, I have to circle back to, you can get too comfy in the time that you're scaling, because this is the first time we've ever experienced scale like this, right? The time that you're scaling, again, you and your partners, your sales team, your marketing team need to be developing strategies to say, hey, man, we just spent a ton of money. We got a nice situation here. The infrastructure's built, but now we got to go get way more prospects. We got to move way more units. So what is the plan?
100%.
So let's segue a little bit. You had another topic that you wanted to cover that I think is really interesting because this platform is just, I don't know. It's like a wild card platform. I love it. I hate it. I don't know.
Yeah, I want to talk a little about LinkedIn. I mean, if you guys are in your personal life spending time on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, any of these places where you're spending time, what you'll notice is that there's consistent new content being made on you every day.
Yeah.
New content, tune in, start to scroll, and you're going to see new stuff. Maybe you have a couple days where something goes a little viral and you see it a couple times in a row, but for the most part, consistent new content. LinkedIn, which is the business platform for now, is the one that seems to have the same content coming up. You might see a quote from Will Smith that the same photo and quote went a little viral back in March, and now you're still seeing it in September, and it's floating around. And the lack of original content being produced on this platform is amazing that it still holds so much value. So what do you think for your average business owner about producing content on LinkedIn when you're not seeing as much?
Mm-hmm. So my first question would be, is content production in mass, is quality content production, is that rewarded on LinkedIn? That's kind of a rhetorical question, but that's where I'm leaning towards right now. Is it really rewarded, right? When I look at LinkedIn, it's just one of those platforms that I think has great potential, but for whatever reason, whoever's running that platform, whatever they're trying to accomplish, I don't think it's being executed properly. It's kind of this platform that is supposed to be a job provider. It's a platform that's supposed to be great for, networking and having a vast network. But if you're going to be on social media, you have to be creating massive amounts of content, or you have to be exchanging content. There has to be lots of distribution. And it's become a situation where it can be kind of like a super overrated platform, right? You got all these different members and people who have accounts, but are they active, right? You see the CEO of XYZ company, can you contact him? Will he respond? When's the last time he's been on LinkedIn, right? And then you've got, this kind of fun kind of employee thing that's like, hey, I'm at a trade show, or hey, I'm at this event, or heavily in the recruiting space. Like, hey, I'm at the recruiting event. Look at me. I look nice. You know what I mean? And I just don't see a lot of substance on the platform. Now, we are in a situation where it holds so much weight, especially on the B2B side, that we have to participate in LinkedIn. We have to put content out there. But is content rewarded? And you know what I mean? If it is, how is it being rewarded, right? I just think LinkedIn has a lot of things to work on before they can really be like a solid source to use.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we know industries that do well there.
Mm-hmm.
Securities, investments, business coaches, doctors, lawyers. The ones that, it sounds crazy, but the ones that have the most trouble producing content due to their industry do the best on LinkedIn, it seems like. And also LinkedIn seems very much to have the algorithm that YouTube had when they destroyed all their creators, right? We know if you guys have ever followed YouTube, the height of the YouTube creator was like 7 years ago. We had these massive creators. That's what you see, the dawn of Mr. Beast, the dawn of Louis Cole, Casey Neistat, all these mass producing content people. The algorithm made them produce content every day, every single day. You miss a day, and the algorithm resets. And so the need to do daily vlogs or daily content became so important that it started to burn the creators out. And LinkedIn has a very similar model. Like, you need to be producing there every single day. And as of late, I'm producing 2-3 pieces of content on LinkedIn almost every day. and I can play the algorithm game. I can see the engagement starting to skyrocket.
Right.
But realistically, for your average business owner or creator, can you be producing 2 to 3 pieces of content to play there? So
it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, right? You know, 4 or 5 years in, going on year 6, we just now started to have time to produce content again. There's 2 times in our business that we had time to produce content. First was when we first started because we had no clients, so you have shit tons of time. The second one is now, right? And if you're not able to keep that volume up in a platform that doesn't reward volume, does it reward content, you know, are people, you know, what are the stories looking like? What are the reels, you know, how does that work, right? I just think that LinkedIn is, I love it, but it's like kind of lazy. You know what I mean? And then when you get to the ad portion, it just doesn't even make sense. Like, why would we spend this amount of money to get the freaking question mark ROI? Like, we don't even know like what it produces.
yeah, look at who's putting ads on LinkedIn, and that will answer your question.
Discover,
American Express,
you know,
Gary Vee.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like mass budget companies with massive marketing budgets are doing because it's so expensive. We just request your firstborn child, not a problem.
yeah, it's all easy. I think you made when you said earlier, you were like, you know, it's probably the best business platform, and you kind of worded it like for now.
For now, I mean,
somebody can come in and really, really disrupt LinkedIn.
Someone's coming in. I mean, I think that if you look at the back end of Facebook and you look at business.facebook.com and you look at what it's doing, all it takes is Facebook to want to take it. Like, if Facebook wants to take LinkedIn's lunch, they're going to snatch it.
Crush it.
Because LinkedIn stays 7 years behind.
Oh, God.
Even uploading videos to that platform at this point is terrible. It's not good. It's not fluid. Your trackability on personal profiles still doesn't really exist. It's not great.
Microsoft bought it.
Made it worse.
They bought it. They made it worse. And it's almost like it's just on a deserted island somewhere in their portfolio. Because no one's going back to update and really make it relevant, right? And I think I'm just guessing because I'm not, you know, I'm just now starting to get back on LinkedIn a little more frequently. I don't really see the same activity from users that I saw maybe a couple of years ago. It just seems a little dry, you know. And I think it goes back to who's running that platform. And as soon as Microsoft got it, and this is not a dig at Microsoft, right? But as soon as Microsoft got it, it just got corny.
It's a little bit of a dig at Microsoft because that's what they do with everything. Like Microsoft Word hasn't worked for 30 years, but we still getting used, and that thing still doesn't work.
No, man. I mean, I don't know. I just think they kind of ruined it. I mean, I'm not gonna say they ruined it, but like, what are they doing with it? You know, where are the reels? Where are the stories? You know, why are the ads so expensive? Where's the engagement? Is the distribution of it rewarded? I don't know, man. It's just kind of one of those platforms that just, it's there. We know it's the only one for the professionals, so we got to use it. But I am on the low waiting for someone to take it over and do a professional social networking platform the right way.
It has to happen. And like we said, I don't want to beat that horse, but it works for some. I mean, there's certain professions it 100% works for.
Yeah.